Hey, what's going on, everybody? So guys, I'm really excited about this session. So I've got a great friend of mine here. He's an absolute killer. Many of you guys see him on social and a bunch of other stuff. So guys, I'd like to introduce Brent Agee from ACTION Pest and Termite. Brent, say what's going on to everybody.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So first off, how was your second time in Tampa so far?
Got to see a little bit more Tampa this time. I did, first time around, I never left the hotel. So it was during the energy conference. So this is it's been fun.
You guys have fun so far?
Yeah,
it's cool. It's a super cool place, and I can tell you this: if you came here 10 years ago, it's really changed a lot. So culture's gotten better. Food scene is incredible. I know we had dinner at an awesome restaurant last night. Everything's just gotten more fun here.
I'm still looking for the prosthetic legs out the side of a Wendy's, but
dude, it's so funny.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Yeah, that video is hilarious. So, well, listen, man. So, a lot of people know you. A lot of people are starting to know you. But I mean, you have a really unique origin story. I mean, you run a company in Arizona. You guys are growing incredibly fast. I mean, so where did this all start? I mean, you have a totally different background. So, tell everyone where you came from.
Yeah, so second generation exterminator, right? So my family owned a business before I was born. So kind of grew up in the industry. When I got certified out of high school, before I was allowed to work for the family business, my dad made me work for all of our competitors in town.
Really?
It was his way to, make me find out how, why Action was different in a way, right? Like wanted me to appreciate working for the family company a little bit more. So I worked for multiple competitors, some of them not the best jobs I've ever had. And then one day my dad asked me to kind of come on board at Action as a termite technician. And I think I've held every position there is to hold in that company, from a termite tech to a sales manager, tech manager. I answered phones at one time. I was the general manager. And then when my dad officially, went to retire, they made me CEO, gave me equity of the company, and double the size of the business. And then shortly after that, was approached by Shore Capital.
Yeah.
And made, formed partnership with them. So
you went from the ground up to the CEO of a private equity backed company.
Yeah.
What was the time frame of that? I've never asked you that.
Yeah, so there was a little period of time, probably like 2013, I actually went off on my own. So I decided I didn't want to work for the family anymore. Yeah. So 2013, I started my own business called Master Tech Pest Solutions at the time. 24-year-old kid, grew it up to about $1 million business, didn't know what I was doing. Luckily in 2016, my dad was looking to retire officially and, offered to buy me out to bring me back over to Action, right? So in 2016 is when I kind of came back over to Action, kind of ran the company as a general manager. Then when I doubled the size of the business from being there is when they made me kind of CEO, probably 2022. And in 2023, Shore Capital approached me and, they, kind of gave me their pitch. And at first, I didn't know a lot about private equity.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey guys, I just got equity, kick rocks, right? Like I'm not giving anybody any equity, didn't understand it. But the more I learned about Shore, the more I learned about how they're different. Great team, they like to win. I think I flew to Chicago about 6 times in one summer, just, interviewing other CEOs that, did with the platform. And, the more I got to know them, I said, hey, I think this is, speaking to my wife and, was a great opportunity, and it's been fun ever since.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, so let's kind of go back to kind of the beginning, because I think the beginning matters. Yeah. Because if you think about building a company or you think about life in general, it's always something that you've built on and learned. That always gets us to the next level, right? Yeah. And so if you think about when your dad said, go work for our competitors, how many competitors did you work for?
I worked for 2.
Yeah.
Right. And the first one I worked for probably, 8 months.
Yeah.
And it was a 6 days a week. Never took a Saturday off. And, I asked for a Saturday off 2 weeks ahead of time, and they said no. And I was like, all right, I dropped my keys. And, when you're 18 years old, you got a lot of options. So yeah. went to another competitor, and, all we did was apartment complexes. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. For all the guys that service apartment complexes, you guys are better men for it. It's not something that, I love to do, but I remember going home every day and washing, the Aquasol out of my hair, and it just pouring off of you. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to live much longer if I keep doing this. So then, that's actually where I was actually had that job when my dad actually approached me to bring me back into, bring me over to Action.
So thinking about working, so, a lot of people who are owners worked for another company, then went on to be an owner. You were told to go work for another company, right?
Yeah.
And I would tell you this, there's quite a few people who I've met over the years who have actually had that experience, and they've ultimately ended up running the same similar thing. And every single one of them has a completely different perspective. And the perspective is always like this level of gratitude and gratefulness for like what their family did. And most of these companies tend to do really well. So, I mean, taking a look back, do you think that was a good decision? Do you think it was like, why did my dad do this to me? Do you think you were just being a punk kid and he said, you're not working for the family business? Yeah. I mean, what do you think?
I think all of the above.
All of it?
I was kind of a punk, not gonna lie. Skateboarder, fighting a lot. I got into MMA, directly out of high school.
Yeah.
So I think, I think I got certified for pest control in 2006, and I had my first cage fight in 2007. Right. So I think the mentality of me, my dad was probably like, hey, you need to get out there and be humbled. Right. So I think it was good to go out there, work for competitors, kind of see what it was like. But also, I've seen a lot of family businesses where the kids go directly into the family business, and there is like this sense of entitlement, right? Or there's always that weird family dynamic, right? Some families do it really well, but I think everyone would say that most of the time it creates additional tension, right? Or there's people that don't want to drive for results as much as others because they've never had to, because they've always worked for the family. So I think for me, it was a plus. Part of my decision to actually go this private equity route, I thought about my kids, right? So I thought about me and my siblings working for the family and all the tension it created. I saw some of my competitors' families get destroyed. They sue each other, right,
Yep.
over a family business. So for me, it was like, do I want my kids to be third generation pest control people? And do I want them to be a part of this family business? Or can I break that cycle and maybe elevate myself in my career to just be able to help them do something else, right?
Yep.
And if they want to own a pest control business, I'll help them start their own pest control business, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want them to, get gifted a position just for being my kid, right? It's like, hey guys, if you want a job, why don't we you create the job? I'll help you out. I'll support my kids. And that was also kind of played into my decision why I went with the private equity route.
So then so things have progressed. And so having every single role in the company, one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is that I think you connect to your team really, really well, right? I think you connect to the team. Your team sees you as one of them, which is something that's really stuck out as long as we've known each other. And so do you think that going through all the different roles as a second generation owner, do you think that was highly beneficial? And I know it sounds like a loaded question, but is it highly beneficial? Or do you think there would have been a better route looking back now that you guys are obviously going to scale?
I mean, that's tough, right? Because I don't think you need, in order to be a great leader, I don't think you need to do all the jobs. I think I'm blessed that I was able to work all the positions and really understand their roles and actually live those roles. So maybe I appreciate, every role. I got to see that side of it, but I don't think I wouldn't say it's a positive or a negative, really. I think it's, at the end of the day, what my team expects from me is to drive results, right? Like when I walk into the room, they know that I'm going to bring energy, right? I want to win, right? If they say, hey, we're going to get this done, next month, I'm like, let's get it done next week, right? So it's always pushing them to be better, right? I tell my team all the time, guys, I don't want to be just another great pest control company. I want to have the best team, right? I want the industry to look at Action and be like, that's one of the best teams in the industry, right? They're killers, not just the CEO, but the CFO, the CDO, all the roles, all the C-suites. That team's a killer, right? So
yeah, I think I think you brought up a good point. I kind of like to shift there. Is it the results mindset, right? So if you think about this and you think about your organization as a whole, and you do have good leaders in place, is a results-based mindset is really hard to create within an organization. It tends to be because the people that would come in might not be that, and so you actually have to help them get there. Or alternatively, they have to find their spot, right? Yeah. And so from your perspective as the head of this company that's growing incredibly fast, how do you think about that department by department? So if you looked at your service operations, if you looked at, your CSR team, your future sales operations, how do you think about helping these people who are really good employees be able to shift to that highly results driven mindset? Because that's something that really our industry, well, honestly, lacks across the industry as a whole.
Yeah, so I think that results mindset is very much culture, right, in the organization.
Yeah.
I know it sounds cliche to say that, but I think if the team, like Action, we have our KPIs, we have our TV screens in the office, right?
Yep.
Everyone knows the scoreboard, everyone knows how everyone's performing, they know how the company's performing, they know how the teams are performing. So I think when you start to show the score, that breeds that culture of like results, right? Imagine going to a basketball game and there being no scoreboards in the arena, right? Is the energy of the arena going to be the same? No. If no one's keeping score, the energy is going to suck. So I'm a big believer of scoreboards, and that I think that's what drives that, and that's what changes that mentality of results, because we've been doing this a long time, right? Second generation. There's people that have worked for Action for 30 years. We have team members that have known me since I was a baby, since I was in diapers, right?
Yeah.
So, and changing those, and those were when Action was a chuck and a truck operation, right? One guy, two guy operation, and now, now we're scaling. So going to that is like, maybe you can change their mindset a little bit. They've never thought that way before, but once you start showing them the scoreboard, that's when they start thinking about, oh, this is why we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just here to have a job. We're here to win, right? So changing the culture from it's not just a job, but like this is a company that is, here to win, and it's not for everybody, right? So you're going to change people out. Some people want to be part of that type of culture, some people don't. And that's what we realized. But, once you do have a team of people that care about results and care about, driving results, I think that's when you really start to win.
So Brent, thinking about like going from, $1 million to 2 to 4 to 5 and up as you guys are now, culture is a super, super tough thing at the different phases. And I'm not sure you've ever kind of thought about it, but if you think about when you took over the business and doubled, right? What were some of the decisions you had to make to drive culture to get people to start becoming aligned to kind of the future vision that you had? Because I think a lot of times in our group and the people that are gonna that'll watch this, it's really tough. It's easy to say culture. It's easy to use like the keywords. It's easy to do some of these things, but how do you really think about it from a CEO standpoint?
Yeah, I think, and definitely, I mean, it is the CEO's job to create the culture,
Right?
Everyone's gonna look towards the CEO. So the CEO could say, hey, our culture is fun, our culture is exciting, but if the CEO is boring, it's never going to be fun or exciting. Right?
Yeah.
So I think as our jobs, one thing that I do, and I'm a very driven person, whether it's, martial arts or horses or whatever, I think that helps play a role into our culture, even though it's my personal life. But I think my team sees that, right? And it creates excitement. It creates this, hey, Action is doing things, right? The CEO is doing things. Bring that into the business, right? We're always pushing the limits. So it gets other people to start pushing limits too, whether in their personal lives. And I think it's just how you communicate to your N-1s about your vision and making sure that they're advocates to, continue that message when you're not in the room. And I think that's one thing that has really changed Action is I've been able to acquire team members that are like-minded, that I could tell them my vision. We hit it off good, right? They believe in me, I believe in them. And then even when I'm not there, right, I know that they're going to kill it and they're going to keep that culture alive, right? Because they believe in it now, because it's embedded, in the business, not just from a, hey, here's our mission and here's our values, and no one ever sees it ever again. It's like we talk about ours all the time. I know it sounds cliche, but like we created up this like our values is GITS, right? So it's grit, integrity, teamwork, and safety. And we say we gets it done. So GITS all the time. So anytime there's a win, like we just got the Inc. 5000, one of the fastest growing companies in America.
Yeah.
And like all day long, we're just like, gets it done, and it's just like this constant reminder. And like we're constantly keeping that culture alive, whether, through our communication. So it's just creating things like that and, making it a fun place to work. I think that's what really helps, keep the culture alive, where you're not just saying, hey, this is our culture. It's like, no, like what is the CEO doing? What are the N-1s? What are the leadership, what are they doing to make sure that is the culture? Right. So.
Yeah, I think it's great. And one of the things that, I think that you guys do incredibly well. And I mean, actually our company, we follow a very similar process, is that we win internally, right? You guys win internally all the time, but you also are winning publicly all the time. And so if you think about the fact that, all the different stuff you guys have going on, but every week there's something public about what you guys are doing. And in our company, the same. There's always something public about what we're doing. Is like, from your perspective, whether that's strategic or not, or just happening, how do you think that affects the morale of your people?
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And I say this all the time, and I'll be honest, like, we probably suck at it, right? There's, you guys are a lot better than us. And there's a lot of pest control companies that out there that I even look at. I'm like, wow, these guys do a good job at it. Something that I'm trying to focus on with Action is, and I tell my team all the time, it's like, hey guys, I don't want to be the best kept secret in pest control, right?
Interesting.
I said, I think we're the best team. No one knows we're the best team, right? I was like, but I believe we are, right? I think we win all the time, but we don't share it enough, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're, whether it's the NBA, the proud sponsor of the Phoenix Suns, right? It's like, does anyone know that? Let's make sure everyone knows it, right? Let's make sure our customers know it. Let's make sure our competitors know it. Let's do cool stuff, and let's share it with the community. So I think there's a lot of things that Action does that's still not being shared. And one of my goals, over the next year is to make sure we start to capitalize on a lot of that. So
I would agree with you. Like, I find like the reason to celebrate, even if it's not just how much money we make or just reasons to celebrate, seems to like really drive morale. And like, I can tell you, when I'm in your office, or like, it's pretty exciting, man. Like, it's pretty exciting, the morale in there, And so you guys have done an awesome job with that.
I mean, and I think it's like the individual call outs and successes, right? So whether it's a team victory or individual, like, we have salespeople in our office that we have, one lady that's been with me for a long time, like, she just cleared $1 million in sales this year, right?
Dude,
like, just last week.
I think you have the number one CSR in the country, man.
I mean, 200, I know someone's going to try to poach her now, but she's paid very well. I think she sold $200,000 last month. In just a single month of July, she had $200,000
inside sales.
Yeah, so we celebrate her. We got her and her family going to Disneyland. The company pays for it. Like, celebrate them. Something like that. We try to celebrate those wins on social media as well.
Yep.
Get them get them more involved in the community, right? Get her, if we have our females on the team, we want them to be a part of, like, the Women's Pest Management Association, right? So I think it's huge to encourage your team, but then also, celebrate those wins both internally and, publicly.
And so one of the things that keeps sticking out in my mind is when I saw the announcement a couple of weeks ago about the Phoenix Suns, right? And I don't know what the official thing is. Proud partner, I think, is the official terminology.
Yeah, proud partner and official service provider. So we provide all the services for their forest facilities that they own.
So what I think about when I saw it, the very first thing that came across my mind was like, I wonder what Brent thinks right now. And because I've known you a long time, you're an aggressive, want to go out and win, but you are a humble guy, right? And in my mind, I'm like, man, did you ever take a step back and sit there and go, man, like we actually are the official provider to the Phoenix Suns, or whatever their terminology is, like, going, hey man, when I was going underneath the houses, digging trenches, putting termite work, did you ever imagine like that would be the announcement?
No, I mean, this is it's been great, man, and it is something that obviously it just happened, right? And the season hasn't even started yet, so it's still, we'll see. I'm sure it's going to be a great year for our company as the season kicks off.
Yeah,
we could really capitalize on it, right? But the Suns, I mean, the Player 15 group, I mean, they've been great to work with, right? So that entire organization has been extremely helpful. It's gone way better than I could even imagine, right? So how helpful they are, and how supportive they are of Action. It's kind of a two-way street, right? Like, we are a partner of the Suns, but they are also kind of like a partner of Action, right? They've really helped us and elevate us, and it's been a great relationship. So
yeah, I'm excited to have this discussion a year from now and be able to have a discussion and say, hey, what actually happened because of it? Because we get asked all the time about partnerships and these sponsorships, and I'm always hesitant on whether the company's the right size, whether they should do it, whether they shouldn't. And we get asked all the time. So I'm going to be excited a year from now, or 18 months from now, and have a discussion about what it's actually meant to the business, to see what the real result is.
We probably weren't the right size, but I just kept talking about it until it happened. Right?
I loved it.
So I was like, talking to my team, I was like, yeah, we're going to become the official service provider. We're going to be a proud partner of the Phoenix Suns. And my CFO, everyone was like, yeah, I know, Brent, like that's not going to happen. Come on, come back to reality. And I just said, no, guys, it's going to happen. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. And eventually it happened. And So now we just got to capitalize on it, right? So
Yeah, it's gonna. I think it's gonna be an amazing thing for you. So, well, listen, man. So here's the thing. So since you've never done a session before, this is your chance. You get to ask me whatever you want about anything you want to ask me about, and I'll answer the questions. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, go for it, man.
All right, who's your favorite CEO
In the world?
in the world?
Wow.
Like, who do you look up? Who's a CEO in the world? Doesn't have to be pest related. Who is a CEO that you're like, man, that guy kills it?
You know,
Or female, right? So.
yeah, I think it probably changes from time to time.
Yeah.
Based on like where my personal mindset is right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like large company CEOs that I'm like, these guys are pretty sharp.
I'm trying to ask you some tough questions.
Yeah, pretty political. I think right now, I think the person who I'm enjoying the most is probably Jamie Dimon. I think that his aggressiveness has really ramped up recently, and I think it's interesting. It's interesting. Whether I agree or disagree doesn't really matter with some of the stuff he's doing, but I think his level of aggressiveness in the world has gotten great. There's a bunch that I like, but I like his aggressiveness that he's brought to the table recently, and super opinionated, makes decisions. Whether they're something that I agree politically or not, doesn't matter. But I think that mindset of just makes the decision and moves is really important.
Yeah, well, that's great.
That's a different answer than you thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wait, were you looking for me to say you are, man?
No. I mean, you can't tell them that.
So Brent, really quick before we kind of wrap up. I mean, so our audience that watches this is CEOs, people who are from all over our industry. So if you had to take a step back and go, hey, here's one piece of advice that you want to tell everybody, like look at the camera, give them one piece of advice that you're like, man, I wish I'd have known this, or something encouraging that like people could take away from today.
I think one thing that I would say that from talking to a lot of CEOs and seeing where they're at, depending on the size of their business. And I think this message would be for that sub $5 million probably CEOs is like spend the money to recruit the right people, right? Good leadership in your company. Like take off some hats, find the right people to wear those hats. And I think that will change your life, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things that, as soon as you could stop working in the business and start working on the business, and you have team members are supportive and they have the same mindset, they want to be a part of the same culture, I think that changes your business faster than anything else, right? So, if that person, you don't think you can afford their salary, but if they're a killer and they're a winner, they're going to pay for themselves, right? So recruit the talent, bring on the A players, and make it happen. So
you guys, you're hearing it from a guy who's growing one of the fastest growing companies in America right now. So take the advice. It's great stuff. So Brent, man, appreciate you coming out with us. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. You guys all have a good one. Take care, guys. Fortunate enough to have Brent Agee here.
So it's Agee for one, not Agee.
Have I always mispronounced your name?
It's Agee.
I've always said Agee.
It's Agee.
Does everyone say Agee?
I don't know. I think most people know it's Agee.
I've never heard somebody say Agee in my life.
I know. I get Agee, Aggie, Agee. Yeah, it's Agee.
I've been called garbage man my whole life, so I'm just trying to bring it back. So I've got a really good friend of mine in town. So without further ado, Brent Agee from. Okay, one more time. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Guys, welcome to this week's session. So, guys, I'm really fortunate to have an absolute killer with me today, a really great friend of mine, Brent Agee.
A-G, like the two letters.
A-G. Okay, I'll do it, right?
Like two letters of the alphabet.
Dude, I've never done this in my life.
A-G.
Okay.
That was such a good build-up, too. I felt fucking hyped up. I was ready to fucking slay a dragon. I'm about to change my name to fucking Brent Agee just so we can roll with that. I'm just kidding.
So guys, I'd like to introduce Brent Agee from Action Pest and Termite. Brent, say what's going on to everybody.
Hey guys, how's it going?